this channel, and so many games I want to play, but just so little time that I need to get it all done. So I promise that I haven't forgot or anything, and I am still very much dedicated to this channel. I won't be stopping uploading by any means, but my uploads will most definitely be much less frequent. So thank you all very much for bearing with me. I hope you stick around. Anyway, thank you again. Let me know in the comments if there's any journals or entries from Skyrim that you have that are your favorites. And they can be from any Elder Scrolls game. It doesn't have to be Skyrim. Just let me know. So let's get started. I wanted to start with this Tattered journal by Anonymous because it's one of the first books I always pick up in any given Skyrim playthrough. You can find it in the Ember Shard mine, which is usually one of the first locations I go to pick up iron. It's a very short journal that you can find which I was an honorary member, I was directed to speak to Avrusa Zarethi, a student of botanical alchemy who had a small farm near the city of Riften. By bartering my knowledge of Nirnroot cultivation, I was able to secure Zarethi Farm as a launching point for my field research. I kept the knowledge of the Crimson Nirnroot a secret from Avrusa, but imparted everything else I knew to her in exchange for her hospitality. A few months passed, but I was finally ready to enter Blackreach. I used the ruined lexicon that Obeth had provided and descended into the depths. My goal was to gather enough Crimson Nirnroot to produce my greatest alchemical creation to date. I was certain it would take at least 30 of them to provide the necessary catalyst. This brings me to the present. My initial research seems to indicate that the Crimson Nirnroot has a similar affinity for moisture as the garden variety, but also maintains some sort of symbiotic relationship with the enormous fungi that inhabits Blackreach. It's my guess that the fungi itself is a source of water, absorbing it from the moist subterranean air, like a sponge. This provides the ideal environment for the Nirnroot to grow. Unfortunately, the Crimson Nirnroot appears to have a vastly shortened lifespan, and they are in no way plentiful down here. Gathering 30 of them will be quite the challenge, but hopefully the denizens of Blackreach will allow me to gather those of us still together, unsure of which direction to turn. In the long hours of night, we keep huddled together, always fearing the worst, until the first light of the blessed sun. May Oriel guide our footsteps. 13th of evening star. In the night, I overheard the old ones whispering secrets of the underground and the Dwemer who dwell there. I thought back on stories father once told me of these dwarves, heroic tales of honor and glory. The old ones must know of these stories, for it has been decided that we will change course upon first light. I feel hopeful that the Dwemer will help us to avenge our fallen and reclaim our land. Well, I'm very sorry, Mirtil. I'm glad you had hope. That's really unfortunate. That's so sad. I really find the snow elves really super interesting. I did talk about them quite a bit in my Solstheim video, and I just think that they're super cool. I really like, races. I think it's particularly interesting when there's a race in the Elder Scrolls who has disappeared or died or gone extinct, because I like how they integrate the kind of ruins of those races into the games. You can find, obviously, a lot of like the Dawnguard DLC is kind of about exploring the Forgotten Vale and what remains of the Snow Elves, and I just think that's really cool, especially their relation to the Dwemer, especially because the Dwemer were not particularly friendly to other elvish races, especially not the Dunmer or the Chimer, but they really weren't like evil. So I wonder why it was that they were so desperate to kind of turn the Snow Elves into their servants or slaves. It's just an interesting little piece of lore that I like a lot. I think it adds a lot to the world. Anyway, the next book also kind of follows up the last one. It is entitled Diary of Faire or Faire Agarwen, translated by Calcelmo. It is the ancient diary of a snow elf lamenting the extermination of their race. Forward. The dates noted in this diary are translated literally. This verbiage matches no known modern measure of time and is assumed to be a custom form of counting the days and months. Excavations of ancient Fulmer slave quarters have turned up brass vessels, very similar to a deep bowl, with 20 markings crudely etched onto the side. Fulmer scholars theorize that this bowl would be placed under a drip of water coming from glance, I see the pale flicker of happy moments, which were once so common in the land of the snow elves. I try not to dwell on these memories too long. Often our surroundings make it impossible to dwell on any happiness. We have been locked together in such close quarters for so long, we grow tired of each other's company. Even the strongest of us have faltered with nothing to do but think on what is lost. I wake each day to forlorn faces, and am reminded of where we are and all we have left behind. We are all yearning for a day when we can emerge from hiding and walk freely in the light once more. But I fear we are losing all hope that such a day will ever come. 10th marking. 10th cool and near. I tire of the tears of women and children. My own have run dry. The men have begun to look upon us as if we are all weak yet, and have survived the same trials as they. I cannot bring myself to think on the numbers we lost in battle, yet I cannot force the images of my own losses from my mind. And now, in a time when our people should be banding together, it feels we are drifting apart. The Nords have truly won. Our once great pride and unity are shattered. If we lose hope now, we will never survive. Today, many, myself included, have tried to speak out in voices of reason. There can be no hope without talk of our future. We can make no difference if our spirits remain broken. 18th marking. 10th cool near. We know that we can never again be the snow elves and live freely in this world. We will forever be in hiding in one form or another. But there is no reason we cannot live life with the sun and the wind against our skin. There are those here who are friends to us and plan to help us once the threat has ended. We know now to survive, we must be born anew. Outside, we will appear as though we belong here. Inside, we will carry our truth and our scars. Very sad. I find the plight of the snow elves particularly interesting, especially because of their kind of relationship with the Nords, and how the Nords are always, especially in Skyrim, they're always talking about how Skyrim is for the Nords, and it's always belonged to the Nords, and blah 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 blah. And then you learn about the snow elves, and you're like, oh, right, interesting. Anyway, they have a very fascinating history. The last entry I have is, again, unfortunately not a journal. I know, I'm sorry I titled this video Skyrim Journals, and I'm reading 2 or 3 that aren't journals. Sorry. It just follows up the snow elf story that we were reading, so I wanted to read it. It is called Touching the Sky by Parmion Saldor, and it is translated by Calcelmo. It is an overview of snow elf pilgrimages to the chantry of Oriel. Many of the most dedicated snow elves once committed themselves to a tireless journey through the chantry to the inner sanctum. They carried with them the paramount desire to become one with their god, Oriel. Though all set out with a determination to prove their worth, a say we are. If they discover we're posing as priests of Nocturnal, I'm sure they're not going to simply ask us to leave nicely. I'll have to watch my step. As an acolyte of Nocturnal, I've been assigned a mentor. Old dark elf fellow by the name of LtDansLegzzz. Maybe if I act the part, I can pry some information from him about the Pilgrim's Path. Anders swears to me that all of the temple's wealth is stashed within their inner sanctum, which supposedly sits at the end of the path. So my job is to get us through the obstacles alive. LtDansLegzzz was easier to coax than I expected. Gave me a wealth of information on the Pilgrim's Path, but he was speaking in riddles. I'll try to record what I remember here and share it with Anders after he's done with his mentor. The only thing LtDansLegzzz seemed clear about was that there were 5 tests on the path. This is what he said about each. Shadows of their former selves, sentinels of the dark. They wander evermore and deal swift death to defilers. Above all they stand, vigilance everlasting, beholden to the murk, yet contentious of the glow. Offer what she desires most, but reject the material. For her greatest want is that which cannot be seen, felt, or carried. Direct and yet indirect, the path to salvation, a route of cunning, with fortune betrayed the foolish. The journey is complete. The Empress's embrace awaits the fallen. Hesitate not if you wish to give her your eternal devotion. He also mumbled some nonsensical phrases like night is the new day and how he was the ghost of the sun. I have no idea what these cryptic sentiments mean, but hopefully during tomorrow's ritual, Anders and I will put everything we've learned to the test. So this is directly related to the Thieves Guild quest in Skyrim, where you probably will end up going to the Twilight Sepulchre, and I believe you become a nightingale. I think that's what it's called. At least that's usually exposed. If there is a stronghold of elves here, we will surely root them out. 27th of Sun's Dusk, First Era 139. It sounds impossible, but we appear to have stumbled upon a massive holdout of the dragon cultists, who are believed to be wiped out during the Dragon War. The elves must wait, as this is a threat we cannot ignore. If we are quick, we may be able to catch them unaware and avoid a lengthy siege. 21st of Evening Star, First Era 139. Third week of the siege. I just think it's funny. We may be able to avoid a lengthy siege. Third week of the siege. The men grow restless with the cold and all miss their families. If that blasted storm hadn't caught us off guard and slowed our scent, we might have taken the monastery, but as it stands, we may be in for several more weeks of pounding on their walls. I've sent word to Harald to send one of the voice masters to help bring down the wall. 4th of Morning Star, First Era 140. We've brought down their main gate, thanks to the young voice master, but the brash lad took an arrow in the neck in the process. It seems he will be joining the 8 in Sovngarde soon. This is before Talos' time. The cultists have fallen back to the interior of the monastery, but soon enough we will breach those defenses. The sooner the better. It's too blasted cold on this mountain. 5th of Morning Star, First Era 140. We entered the monastery today, only to find all inside dead. It appears they purposefully caved in the stairway to the refectory and then took their own lives. Some appear to have slit their own wrists, others we found with empty vials. Most appear to be poisoned, but oddly, there are not as many empty bottles as one would expect by the number of dead. We shall hold up here overnight rather than face the cold, and explore the catacombs in the morning to see if we can find another passage to the upper areas. 6th of Morning Star, First Era 140. May the 8 protect us from dragons and madmen. We lost half our remaining men today. We discovered a well in the catacombs, locked but with several buckets already filled, and in their excitement for a drink that didn't risk frostbite on their tongue, 2 score drank before we could stop them. Gods only know how these cultists could use that horrible poison in their own water supply. We've lost more men to this catastrophe than we did taking the courtyard. The well was locked from this side, and the key must be somewhere in the catacombs. But with the ghosts of these dead cultists and the men demoralized, it just isn't worth the search. Let those god-forsaken cultists drink their way to oblivion and be done with it. The upper door in the courtyard has some sort of barrier over it, and our mages believe that the sacrifice made here will sustain it for decades at the least. We leave this accursed place tomorrow to regroup and push up north, but I will leave this journal so that in an age or so, when the poison has faded, someone may find a way in to be sure the cultists met their due fate. There you go. I like to read about the First Era and the Nordic Empire. I do want to do a bigger video that's like a history of Skyrim, and we can talk much more deeply about the Nords and their culture, and like the first Nordic Empire and all that kind of stuff, all that fun stuff, if you will. The next journal is entitled closer look, or to take it as a prize, but it has evaded them all. I continue my research with skepticism. If this is indeed true, how could this be? Was the last unicorn not truly the last? Or is some other force at work? 18th of 2nd Seed for Faire 201. While studying the mating habits of salmon is certainly enlightening, I have become quite obsessed with my pursuit of the elusive unicorn. I spoke with a hostler who said that during one of his horse taming expeditions, he too saw something that closely resembled the fabled unicorn, though he was unsure. He is a man of great integrity, so I took his word in good faith. I decided then to speak with Tolfdir at the College of Winterhold. Being a wise man with deep knowledge of such things, I hoped he might have some insight. I was correct in my assumption. According to Tolfdir, the Sijic Order have appeared from time to time throughout history to assist with situations they believe are extremely important. While he cannot personally say for certain, he believes they may have intervened after the last unicorn was sacrificed, transporting another through time in order to set right what they believed was a wrongdoing. I am more motivated than ever to see this creature with my own two eyes. 24th of 2nd Seed for Faire 201. The last sighting of the unicorn was rumored to be in a dense forest area near Riften. As old as I am, an energy filled my bones that I haven't felt since I was a young man. I hiked up the ridge of the mountains there and set up a very small camp. I was cautious to not set any fires or make much noise, lest I scare it away. After waiting 2 nights, through this morning's early fog, I finally saw the majestic creature for the first time. I still cannot believe my own 2 eyes. It lingered long enough for me to see it clearly, its brilliant coat and distinct horn shimmering in the morning light. I watched its movements for nearly 30 minutes, enough time to draw a rough depiction for my library. This is absolutely the crowning achievement of my scholarly life. I've decided to turn this information over to the College of Winterhold, rather than publish it to the general population. I would like to ensure this creature remain protected, and I believe they are the most capable of such a task. I just think that that's so sweet. I just think it's a really cute little journal that we have access to, and I know that I'm pretty sure that's part of the creation club kit thing. Like it's a DLC where you can actually tame a unicorn and like have it as your steed or your mount or whatever. So I just thought that was cool, though. I think it's a cute little journal that we get to see from what's his name? Soran Henriksen, wildlife scholar. Okay, so the last poem I have here, again, it's not a journal entry, but it was so close to a journal entry that I decided to include it. It is entitled Love Poem by Ingvar the Singer, and it's a poem for Markarth's housecarl, or a missive from Kelselmo to Falin. The reason I included this here is just because I was so mind blown by the fact that Kelselmo asked someone to write a love poem for him, for the girl that he likes or whatever, the housecarl, Falin. Because Kelselmo, when you talk to him dry wash down her slopes, their eye-born streams obliquely run, for brash assault could never pierce those guarded depths that lay apart, but patient water gently shapes a furtive channel to the heart. My love is delving water ice that cracks with cycles of the sun. A lapping, yearning, whispered plea will mark the time till I rush in.